last item in correspondence, so just a congratulations to Nick. He was selected to be one of 20 applicants to participate in the Practical Soil Health Specialist Training Program. So that is training in, if I recall correctly, Nick, in October and March. And based on his experience, and I'm sure the letter of support that was written from his office. So, Nick, did you want to say something on that?
No, I'm pretty excited. I'm actually pretty surprised that I got it. Yes, Jim, thanks for your letter of support. I appreciate it.
Put you over the top.
Yeah, it sure did. No, I'm really excited about it. I really thought there was a limited chance I would get it, but yeah, I mean, it's like a 1.5 year kind of program. I have to, in October, end of October, I'll go to I believe it's a 2-day training. And then in late March, early April, I have to attend another, I think 2-day training that they might have online. I'm not sure yet. Then I have to do a few other items, like I have to assist with some education and outreach and some different training events. And then I have to track some of my technical assistants that working with the farms on soil health related topics, and then kind of submit everything in a final report to complete this. It's called the Soil Health Specialist Training Program. So they pay for, it's a $100 application fee. Now that I've been accepted, we have to send the $100 check. And then from there, they pay for pretty much everything. I think I have to pay for a couple meals, but they'll pay for travel if it's over 60 miles and for room and board as well. So it's going to be, I think, a pretty good opportunity. I'm really excited about it.
With who is the training?
So it's through, we're paying Cornell University, but it's New York Soil Health. I know, Ryan, do you know who is actually in charge of this training?
Greg would probably know better than I.
Yeah.
Cornell has a spin-off of EPF funding that does a soil health initiative, and part of that is a big educational type thing where they're training people to come in and be specialists, probably to help them with things across the state, and you can represent your own county doing it. But it's rather new. They've only had a couple of years of funding. This is the first specialist type program for an individual that I've seen, so it is relatively new.
Congratulations, Nick.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, we'll go to our presentation. Nick, you gonna allow me to share screen?
You should be good now.
Okay, can everybody see, we good? I always like to check.
I'm seeing it
Looks
fine.
good.
All good.
Okay. So last month we mentioned the Upper Hudson River Watershed Revitalization Plan, and just like to say to Ben Driscoll, welcome Ben. Thanks for attending. We just got your chat information message, I should say. And just so you know, the city of Glens Falls, about 2/3 of the city is in the Hudson River watershed. So you are included in this plan. The mayor is aware of it. And, so it pays to tune into our meetings. So here's the Upper Hudson River. It was a DOS, town of Horicon. It ran through the town of Horicon, and it's through the Upper Hudson River Watershed Coalition. The regional planning boards are part of the Upper Hudson. So we're gonna move their logo out of there and just keep the Upper Hudson folks. So that's where they're part of. So it was 5 years long. Nick and I basically did the map work for this in year 1.5, and then waited for 3.5 years to make revisions to the maps. But hey, well, we didn't actually have to make too many revisions, so that was good. Nick is the representative from our county on this. So I'm the rep to the Champlain group, and he's a rep to the Hudson River. If you hadn't had a chance to look at the document, that's why we're running through this. But the bottom line is there's 190 projects identified totaling more than $300 million. And that's, a lot of money, which we know New York doesn't have, at least right now. I don't think it's in our budget anytime for everything in our community, but that's what a planning document is for. And I should say that it goes from Mount Marcy all the way down to the federal dam at Troy. So visions and goals, threats to water quality resources. And this is the big thing, something we've been preaching for years is, the economic vitality of the region. With Mr. Brown up here today, we've been talking about, we do not notice any lack of people coming to the area when you're looking at the village of Lake George and Warrensburg. It's amazing how many people are here. A lot of those folks are on the lake, they're renting or own. Our water is our livelihood. Positive planning, consistent planning throughout, working with agriculture and producers. Just remember that while the upper part of the upper Hudson is very forested, the lower portion, Fulton County, Saratoga, Rensselaer, and Washington, significant areas of agriculture. Forest landowners, again, up this way, whether they're private, basically they're going to be private landowners, and that doesn't include just small outwood landowners, that's also paper producers. And here's the watershed. So fairly large watershed. It captures the Sacandaga River, Schooner River, Fish Creek, Hoosick River, and the Battenkill. It is a large watershed. There's part of it which we had to crop out, which was over from Vermont. But I think that this is impressive. It's over 4,000 square miles in size. So the assessment dealt with a variety of topics. We had to look at population, land use, environmental issues. So within that 4,000 square miles, we had 97 municipalities, only quote unquote 300,000 people. And that is including Saratoga and parts of Rensselaer County. So we kind of laugh at that. 53% of the property is wild forest, conservation lands, or public parks. So over half of this area is, let's say, protected in some form. 20% is residential, 14% is vacant. 8% is ag, primarily down in Saratoga, Western Washington counties, and scattered here and there in Rensselaer County. Some public service and recreation, blah, blah, blah. Environmental settings, we looked at soil types, they're variable, and both point source and non-point source pollution. Point source, the easiest way to describe it is a factory with a pipe coming out that has a permit to discharge X amount of constituent into a water body each day. And non-point source is what we see every day when it rains and stuff comes off of the road. There's not a clear indication of who's exactly responsible for that, because the roads are driven by people. They're maintained by the Department of Public Works, but they are not considered a point source. So most of the watershed has zoning, but the one thing that we discussed actually last week was stormwater erosion control regulations. If you are outside of the urbanized areas of the municipal separate storm sewer system, you only have 39% of the watershed being under some type of regulation or local ordinance. And I should say, just to be clear, that this includes the MS4 area. So outside of there, there's a whole lot of nothing.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
Craig here. DEC regulates some of that stormwater and erosion control over a certain size.
It does, but looking at it from the local perspective. So
Okay.
there are no local, unless you have a specific local ordinance. And this is one thing that we talked about, basically, let's say in my town, Thurman, we don't have any erosion control regulations. But that doesn't mean that if I don't scallop off a the hillside and have it wash off down into the Patterson Brook, that I'm not going to get a call from the DEC regardless of size because there's a contravention of water quality. But yes, you are correct, Craig. The DEC has their speedies for permit for construction of activities that exceed 1 acre. But we know, we've seen them, that there's a lot of places that get built that don't have this permit coverage. And I don't blame the local government for that because it's a state requirement, state permit. And there's a lot of lack of information out there to the local communities. So it puts the onus somewhat on the local communities, and it's kind of tough in the towns, as you know. So. And right to farm laws, those are basically down Saratoga, Rensselaer, Washington counties. I think some in Essex County as well. So our priority issues and water quality concerns: stormwater, ag, we're looking at nutrient and pathogen runoff, stream bank erosion, roadside erosion, invasive species, both on land and in the water, drinking water and wastewater, and aquatic organism passage. And, you know, as the district here, we deal with all of these and in multiple forms. So I think we've got a pretty good handle on what's going on in our area. There's always more work to do and more to find out, but I know we're hitting all these topics already. I'm not going to get into that, but these are just the examples of some of the projects. There's the City of Glens Falls, design and implementation of separated storm sewer upgrades. So, you know, that was something I believe we got from Steve Gersler. Basically, it's a cost estimation to get rid of the combined sewers. So when a significant storm event occurs, it goes down the stormwater system and flushes into, there's a cross pipe and goes into the sewer system, overloads the sewer system, which then discharges to the Hudson River. So getting rid of those, keeping cleaner water clean, and black water is the sewer, keeping that water separated, then that's going to be good for everybody. You know, the cost estimate for 3-4 years ago was $10 million. And that's part of the 300 that you saw. Ag, I don't know if we have any in particular here. Looks like Saratoga, Washington, and Rensselaer, but Washington County implementing a county-wide cover crop initiative. So Craig, I'm sure you're familiar with cover crops. You know, basically putting down some type of temporary cover on ag fields post-harvest or just at the just before harvest, depending on the material that's there, and keeping that soil in place and the nutrients on the ground and available for coming years. But they're looking at that for $250,000. One way which cover crops get implemented, which I thought was interesting, is by helicopter. So they disperse seed by helicopter. Erosion control, Johnsburg. We put this one in on behalf of Andrea. Ski Bowl Stormwater Mitigation Project. If you've been up to the Ski Bowl, Bob and I get up there about once a year after a big storm event. We were up there last year after the Halloween storm, and that was impressive. The rock that was on that Little Gore access road, and the guys were using snow shovels to move it, which I didn't understand, but it was interesting. So did a cost estimate to have that fixed and came up with about $200,000, that whole area. So big chunk of money for a small community, and that's why it goes into the larger plan. Invasives, towns of Horicks, Chester, Luzerne, Grant Lake, Schroon Lake, Lake Luzerne. Those are basically the milfoil and a few other ancillary items that you have harvested out of there, but that's $250,000. City of Glens Falls, water, wastewater treatment upgrades, $6.7 million. You know, the Village of Lake George and the Champlain watershed is spending about $22 million for their wastewater upgrades. So this stuff is expensive. And lastly, aquatic organism, town of Chester. Loon Lake Dam replacement. Funding for engineering and replacement of the dam on Loon Lake, $600,000. And I'm going to guess, Craig, when the time comes, that number is going to be even higher, unfortunately, just based on time. You know, nothing seems to get cheaper, but you're on here, so you're a priority. You've been validated.
Well, that's good. Thank you, because we did just get they're finalizing the dam rehab report right now, and we need funding to implement. So this will get us in place, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely will. You need some damn funding, don't you?
Yeah.
So the conclusion, there's more than 190 projects across the priority issues, more than $300 million in water quality improvements, identifies projects, partners, assist municipalities. It's a planning guide. And then the Regional Planning Board is going to create a 9-element plan, which basically adds on to it and gives you more oomph for state and federal grants. So Allison is the one who put this presentation together. She was unable to be here. She's on vacation. So we shared this with you. And, you know, if you would like a copy of the document, each community should be getting some. But if any board member would like them, we have probably about a dozen. And they are, well, you know, here's my phone and here's the document. So they're pretty sizable here. 212 pages. If you would like one, we can drop one off to you or mail one to you. Just let us know. I didn't, Nick, anything else to add into that?
No, that was a pretty good overview. What the Upper Hudson Group is working on now is writing a grant to get funding to convert it into a 9-element plan, which will just open us up for additional grant funding opportunities. But yeah, I mean, read through, especially the project section, if you're part of a municipality, and utilize this document to get points on your applications, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll go right into our business office operation plan.
Okay. So, yeah, not a lot has actively changed on our end. It's interesting to see what agencies are doing across the state. I didn't realize the DOT was still limited to groups of 10 people. So, you know, that's interesting. But we are continuing as we have been with our plan. We do have, and I was going to announce it later, but it fits here, on the 25th of August, we're doing a stream cleanup for the MS4 program for the town of Queensbury and the county. And it's the date we've used the last few years. It's that last Tuesday of August. So I reached out to Warren County Health, Dan Durkee, to see what they'd recommend as far as any other safety measures than what we have. Nice thing is we already use gloves and things like that because of picking up stuff. So I think it's more of the social distancing aspect than anything. So that'll be at Hubby Park Pond and a few areas around there. And I think I sent it out. I'll send it out through the Board of Supervisors and to Don Lehman as well. So anyway, there's no real changes on our end, and I'm going to leave that in there until we don't need it. So.
All right, sounds good. The NYS DEC endorsed 4-hour ESC.
Yeah, sorry for the acronyms. So erosion sediment control training. That's the training that Nick and Dean and I do. We generally do 3 public ones at the Lake George Firehouse, and then do some ones for private contractors and some other soil and water districts. We actually learned that Onondaga County Soil and Water was conducting trainings, and so nobody else was. So we said, let's give it a shot through Zoom. The DEC allows that with certain stipulations, and Nick and I have done it. Dean's been out basically hydroseeding every time we go to do it, so good planning on Dean's part. He's out usually in the nice weather, except a couple times it's been a little warm. But we've had, I think, Nick, 5 trainings online?
Yeah. 4 or 5. Losing
probably
track now.
Probably about 50 people, 40 people, 50 people total. But there's definitely a need out there. I'm surprised other districts aren't doing it. We got an approval from the DEC to have more than 12 people on Zoom, essentially because we have more than one trainer. So either Nick or I can be the trainer and share the screen, whereas the other person then can be as kind of jokingly refer to as the 1980s mall security guard sitting there with the screen of everybody watching, making sure that they're not falling asleep too badly. So, but you know, it's bringing some income in for our district, and that's a good thing. We don't know when we'll go back to doing them in public. We can do that at the firehouse. We could have it limited to 20 people, but Dave Gasper at the DEC wasn't sure what was going to happen. So we may be doing this for a while. I did get an email and talk to Brendan Manning. Is the New York State Association of General Contractors. Nick or I do a training for them in December, usually around 100 people, and they're interested in doing something with us online. We might have to break it up in a couple different forms, but I think we'll keep going with these. So if any director hasn't, and I'm not excluding you, Ben, we like you. So if you want to hop on sometime, learn all about erosion, sediment control, and stormwater, just reach out to myself or Nick or Rhonda, and we will sign you up. It's fairly painless. It's 4 hours of hearing Nick and I talk. So take it for what it is.
Is there coffee break? No?
2 coffee breaks.
2 coffee breaks.
2 coffee breaks.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll go into the 2020 Budget Committee.
Thanks, Jim. So I need to have 3 directors step up to come into the office to go over our 2021 budget.
Yeah, I'll be there. So you can do it online too.
On Zoom also?
Yeah, if somebody didn't want to come in. So we had talked about, I believe, the 12th, 13th, or 14th.
We have to have the budget before our next meeting because the county will set us up. It's usually after our August meeting. So we have to have it all approved for the August meeting.
I can come up too.
Is that Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
Sign me up. What are the dates, possible dates?
Rhonda and I originally talked about the 12th, 13th, or the 11th, 12th, 13th, somewhere in that week, 2 weeks from. 2 weeks from.
Yeah, from Wednesday on.
Okay. Great. All right.
I could probably do it one of those days.
Okay. So you got a bunch of people. Susan, Craig, Mike. So Rhonda's starting to develop a budget. I talked to the county the other day, and basically the word we got was keep a level budget going to the county this year. And if it was less, they wouldn't argue. So that's what they said. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. So
I will contact you and we'll set a more permanent date with a time.
Okay,
I'll contact you by email.
Okay.
it should be
Thank
pretty
you.
easy. It should be pretty easy. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you. Now we have to do the SUNY Adirondack Training Agreement for approval, ESC training.
So this is an erosion sediment control training that they asked Nick about having us do down at the SUNY Adirondack. I guess they're still going for it. Simple agreement that they sent me. I just need approval to sign it. It's to be able to, for us to be able to instruct it and for us to be able to take payment. So I don't think that's a problem. So.
Sorry.
You want a motion on that?
Yeah.
We did a motion to accept that?
Second.
And there's a second?
I need names, please.
Who made the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mike made the motion.
Yes.
All right, I'll second.
And Tim, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. One more agreement, Town of Lake George, MS4 sampling agreement.
Yeah, we got another one, so I'll just add it in. So, yeah,
Sure,
two more.
sure.
So the MS4 program, for the Town of Lake George, we're doing a yearly agreement for aiding the town in outfall inspections, specifically for illicit discharge detection and elimination. Number 2, provide 2 trainings for the staff in regards to the program. And 3, provide project documentation for the MS4 program twice a year. It's for $1,000. I think it's worked out fine. I don't know at this time, there's about, I believe Nick said there were 21 outfalls that we do an inspection on. But that, sometimes if there's no water running, then there's nothing really to do. It's to document illicit discharges and such. So, and the trainings are relatively simple. We put those together ourselves. I would recommend signing off on that, unless Nick had any specific reservations or any changes he'd like. He does most of the work on it.
No, that sounds good. And we just do visual inspections of their outfalls. We don't do any actual sampling unless they have a potential illicit discharge, then we go out with them to collect samples.
And we need a motion to accept these.
I'll move approval.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
All right, and the last resolution is our yearly MS4 agreement with the town of Queensbury, which is a little bit more in depth. We've been doing this for I think 5 or 7 years now, working with primarily Dave Duell and Craig Brown down at the town of Queensbury, and so over the course of the year for $12,000. And we do outfall inspections. We actually do sampling of water quality and do grab samples there to take to have analyzed. The town of Queensbury had approved and adopted it and sent us a copy of the resolution. So we had been entering into a 3-year contract, but we're waiting for the DEC's finalization of the MS4 permit. Because their stormwater pollution prevention plan will get changed, and we've been waiting, doing 1-year update or 1-year contracts for the last couple of years until the DEC's releases the new permit. But they've been satisfied with this. We've obviously been satisfied as well. So I would recommend approving that.
So it's just a 1-year agreement. 1-year agreement. We need a motion to accept that.
I'll
I'll
move.
make a motion. Second.
Yep. Those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Carried. County composting white paper.
So I sent this out last week after I received it, basically because we're asked to provide a letter of support for this. I did see, and I don't know, Ben, if you're on the other committee for solid waste, on DPW or anything, but I saw Kevin released, there was an article in the paper on that, and I've been to some of these virtual meetings. Marin's been to the virtual meetings. Yeah, I sent it out to everybody to get their thoughts if they had an opportunity to take a look at it. I think in general terms, I think it's something worthy of supporting, but I'm not sure that it's, there's some challenges, I think, to it, the way it's written. So, Ben, did you have any other thing? Are you aware of from the county's perspective?
No, as a matter of fact, I've reached out to a couple of supervisors for their opinions. I have a couple of constituents here in Glens Falls who are active with another group that is opposed to some of the language in the white paper. So
okay.
I'm at this point, I'm still gathering information and trying to get a sense of where my counterparts on the Board of Supervisors stand, but also throughout the county. So at this point, I'm still fact finding and learning and understanding, the potential of maybe tweaking some of the language. I think a lot of it has to do with reality of cost of providing certain types of things. The one comment I had about the this group that opposes it, they're comparing Warren County to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle, which certainly isn't a fair representation of those folks have a lot more resources than we do. So again, I really don't have any comment on it until I can learn a little bit more about both sides of the issue. So thank you.
Greg, is our district?
Jim, I would say I don't see any negative in supporting it. I think the ideals are very positive. Supporting it doesn't commit us to anything. And that still leaves room for, adjusting this thing as time goes on. But I think their ideas are good. It's a reality that we've got to be conscious of our waste stream.
I agree with Tim.
The reality of creating a countywide system. Yeah.
It would need to be countywide to have
effective.
enough in there. It would definitely be driven by the more populated sector of the county. But I was just through our landfill today. We have a lot of leaf waste that comes in. Well, we're taking brush that's going to get ground down into chips, and all of this could be used to feed a whole composting system that has a byproduct of soil. So,
Okay.
And Craig, as I read through this, Craig, I thought, gee, Chestertown is kind of ahead of the curve, because what we're doing with that free store and composting stuff up there, I think, we're already on the right path.
we are. Tim, that we're always ahead of the curve here.
There you go.
All right. Well, if you'd like, I can put a draft response, letter of support, and send it to everybody. And
just simply go forward on. We'll see what happens. We'll follow Chestertown's lead. Okay, the state envirothon competition.
Dino.
Yeah, okay. So I may have mentioned this before or sent out information, but our team from Warrensburg ended up tying for 11th place. And before you get excited, usually at a normally operated non-digital presentation, there are 50 teams. The New York State Envirothon was held virtually through Google Classroom. We had 19 teams competing, and it was a very interesting experience. As I know Ryan had interest and the state committee to make sure that we, New York, could pull this off. I don't think there were a lot of states that jumped into the ring. Some just put it by the wayside and out of their mind. And that trickled through New York State as well. Some counties were prepared to jump onto it due to their community size and strength and technology. So moving right along with ours, but we did good. We came in tied for 11th place out of 17, like I said. It was held through Google Classroom. Started at 10 o'clock, ended at 12:20, which were 20-minute exam stations with a 10-minute break. And it ran with a proctor. Proctors were with their teams so they could, make sure there was no cheating going on and things like that. But it was ran pretty well, pretty succinct. Kudos to a couple technicians in Western and Warren County and some NRCS staff that sit on the New York State Envirothon Committee. But it was well run. And as you know, we pulled ours off. The county pulled off ours as well with a whopping 2 teams. But yeah, if there are any questions moving forward, the New York State Envirothon did get the bid. We will be hosting the National Envirothon, possibly, most possibly, in Central New York in 2024. So I'm on that committee. I believe I will be able to durate staying on the committee through that wide event. But it's an interesting time. It was an interesting time as we sit here in a committee meeting in Zoom, pulling off an educational program like that, which now is second hat for Nick and Jim as we do the 4-hour trainings and as Nick teaches his classes at SUNY Adirondack. But the State Envirothon went well, and our team fared pretty well as well. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted me to cover, Jim, but I'd be more than happy to answer questions.
No, I think that's good. No, I think it's just, I think it's great. It was great to hear that we were able to complete it and it went through. Let's hope things will improve and change in the future here. Next one, we'll go from the Envirothon to we seem to be more and more involved in is office computer updates.
So I apologize. I thought I had sent this other item out last week. It's the 2020 Part C funding expenditures revision sheet. I emailed that about 11 o'clock today. If you did not receive it, that's okay. It basically took what we have expended in Part C under Community Conservation Program as part of our conversation last month, basically having the allowance of about $15,000 to spend for the projects and programs. I moved some funding around that we had planned. So if you were looking at the sheet, like the urban garden program, so that was zeroed out. The shrub and plug program was zeroed out. And the soil health workshop. We have some items in there such as Arbor Day. Arbor Day was budgeted $1,300 and we expended $1,280. Dry hydrants were in for 3 and we still have $3,000 in. So I don't need to go over everything here unless you have a question, but basically if you look under row 2, column 3, says $15,600, and that's what basically we budgeted for what we had expended, which was the $4,600 previous to the approval of the revision of the budget after the last meeting, and we added basically $10,000 into it. So with that, our proposed reserve is higher than it was, but we're anticipating a reduction in state reimbursement next year. So that is what we would like to have allocated into liabilities or the projects account or into our vehicle fund. So basically to cover costs coming up for next year and possibly the following year. That being said, we still have our money in here that we can look at to utilize on a smaller scale. The office upgrades we have in for the year $3,000. We've spent $101. I contacted the county. We usually go through the county anymore for computer services and computers. A laptop that I talked to Mike Colvin, who's the director, he recommended was $620. The software though is where do they get you anymore? It's $260 for the Microsoft suite. So, and then a couple dollars for the antivirus. So essentially you're looking at $900 per laptop. So, and that's including a camera. I guess basic government laptops, unless you spec them out, don't include cameras. So I didn't realize that. So $900 will cover a single laptop. We originally kicked around the number last month at $2,000. So you could get 2 laptops. But it is entirely up to you if you want to go $3,000 and get 3 laptops. Bob can certainly use the laptop that we're running now. The laptop that Dean's running in his office is the oldest one. We could use that back here. I would recommend Marn and Nick having a laptop. Myself, I'll be honest with you, I have such poor internet service over at Thurman. It might be better off if I come in here and work. Rhonda's in and out with financials. We talked about a laptop for her, but we decided maybe just a good external hard drive. which she does already, but it would be an office one. So really, it's up for just to decide. I don't know if there's an immediacy for any of this, but you know, I would say by next month, in order to put an order in, if there is the belief that we are going to be working from home, we're going to need some laptops, and instead of the staff taking home the towers and monitors up every week.
Well, in my opinion, Jim, as you weigh the pros and cons of going this route, I think we should defer to your recommendation.
Okay.
Jim, when you and I spoke, I thought it would be good, you know, to get as many as we could, get them out there for people to use, because, you know, that's where we're going in the future for sure.
Okay.
So in other words, we need to get to, for sure.
I agree with Mike that we should get as many as we can. It is the way we're going. And to have the staff bring home the towers is ridiculous.
Okay. So that would be three. So 2,700 approximately, plus you'd have to throw in a couple things. Case and a wireless mouse, I would say. And most of the software now, we have an ArcGIS online account through Sarah Frankenfeld at the county. We're doing a lot with county planning again, which is nice. We used to work with them a lot. Now we're back working with them on that. So, and then you're talking like Google Earth. Bob uses Google Earth a lot, StreamStats. A lot of these are all online software platforms anyway. I think Nick, about the only one that isn't is our design software there.
AutoSketch.
AutoSketch, yeah. These new laptops, if you've bought a laptop in the last year, you know this, hardly any of them come with a CD drive or DVD drive anymore. So that's just, you know, if we have a software that's only on that, we can't load it, but we'll figure out some way of doing it if we really need it. So,
Jim?
Yes.
You can, external hard drives are easy to get for loading if you're going to be doing it by CD. Otherwise, everything is downloaded. Sometimes when you buy a suite, you'll have license for up to 5 machines. So you look into buying, see if that's applicable for these purchases at all.
All right, yeah, that's right from Mike Colvin. So I'll double check on that, but he seemed to indicate that it was $260 per each license.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's a good point, Craig.
Okay.
So, okay. So you want to go for 3?
Yeah, I would say go for 3. I think we definitely can use them.
Okay, I will talk to Mike and see what we can do.
And are these an HP?
I believe they're Lenovo's.
Okay.
All right, we're going for 3 salary adjustment discussion, 219 to 220.
All right. So last year during the budget meeting, a couple directors, and actually a director wasn't part of it, asked about some of the salaries, specifically for Maren and Nick. We looked at salaries and wanted to have a bump on that salary. The agreement was we would wait until 2020 in March, because March is when we get our Part C funding. This March, if you remember, our meeting was canceled because it was the start of COVID. So with the reduction in, or with the unknowing that was out there, we held off on this, but going into the new year, getting into the budget season already, it's been brought up again. So if you'd like to discuss this, Rhonda and I have looked, and my recommendation is $1,200 for each of them, and that would be added on to their current salary. It would be retroactive, so they get the full $1,200. That's less than we had proposed last year, but seeing that we're going to be in a tight budget, but recognizing that they've doubled the amount of AIM income, and we're probably going to double the amount of stormwater training income. We felt that was certainly available. So goes to you folks for discussion. So.
I think we continue to ask, given more responsibility. They've actually taken the challenge on, and I'm all for it myself. So if anybody else has any comments?
You want a motion for discussion?
How about, what was it, $1,200 for each?
Mm-hmm.
I would move to approve, and then if you want to have discussion, we can discuss.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, and discussion.
Okay, so bring me back up to speed. Is this, this is retroactive?
Yes.
That's for this year. And are we sure of all of our funding coming in?
Yes.
Because I know at the town level, we cut back on salaries because we're not going to have the funding in place that we need.
Yeah, this was, it was to be taken out of the reserve account last year, effective this coming March after approval or discussion approval like this from the board. But yeah, we think that, you know, it can be done. It's you know, something that we can cover essentially with 2 stormwater trainings.
And then how does this affect next year?
As far as
wages?
Well, yeah, what we're looking at this coming year is a 0% increase. So the salaries that we have this year would be the same, except for the Marn and Nick. That'd be, you know, it'd be 1,200 added on now, and then I don't know what they make off the top of my head, but going into there, nobody would be looking at an increase for next year.
Okay. Do these go on step and grade?
Not really. We don't have a step and grade. We have basically a performance. That's what, you know, we look at, and we've done it that way. But no, there is no step and grade. So generally raises are equivalent to what non-union county employees are receiving. That's what Frank always had that way. And then if there was an adjustment, if you as board members felt that there was a need to adjust that, then you could, or you would. So we've seen raises. We've seen 0% during, well, I think that was 06, 08. We've seen 1%. We've seen up to 3%. We've seen somewhere in between a number of years. So 2% is popular. So.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm in favor of this. Usually it's nice to have numbers in front of us, a sheet where it shows the whole thing and what the total impact would be to an operating budget. Otherwise, you're shooting blind, you might say.
Well, this would be coming out of a reserve account, which I believe you have in the packet. So, and then next year, again, you know, we're looking at an increase in the amount of AEM funding, along with the stormwater trainings. But yeah, I mean, some of it is a little bit of an estimation or a guess, no doubt about it. But you know, this would have been a discussion back in March, and it got delayed because of the COVID. So.
And you were saying that this was proposed for the 2020 budget?
It was a discussion point from the budget committee last year in August. And it was going to be brought up during the new year in March. Our meeting was canceled due to COVID. So that's when we started stripping down the budget to put more back into the reserve for different items and for additional carryover. So it didn't come to the board before this. It was in the budget committee, our budget committee.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I guess George Ryan mentioned it in January at the board meeting.
The courses alone, 1 or 2 courses could pay for this. Any other discussion on this issue? I know it's something we did being on the budget committee. I remember discussing it last August. Seems like quite a while ago. Any other comments or concerns?
So, yeah, I'm looking for what our fund balance is. And then would we need a resolution to amend the budget?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not finding that. This is where I miss meeting in person. Rhonda could just point to my stack of papers and stuff.
Any idea what the reserve was? I don't remember either. Can you look at it?
So is the motion before us just for 1,200?
Yes, each.
Okay.
Fund balance. Any more discussion on this item? I know it's one I know. Don't have that in front of us, the fund balance. We do have a sizable amount in there. I know that. Anybody else has got some concerns or something we should look further at? I know we've held off on it a long time. I think it's time we got to go make a decision on this issue.
We're going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, 17,000.
17,000
For last year's reserve.
for last year's reserve. So that would come out of the 17,000.
It's not touching any of the 2020 budget.
Okay, it would not affect the 2020 budget. It wouldn't come out of the 2020 budget. That's even better yet. Any other concerns or comments on this?
So it would not affect the 2020 budget?
Right.
We're in 2020.
You know, as I look at this, you're already generating more income than you anticipated with your courses, erosion control courses. And it sounds like there's a potential for more of that as we go forward. You know, it seems like we're covered for this year, and you know, we haven't met as a budget committee yet for next year, so we can deal with that when we meet the budget.
Okay.
And we also in our Part C of 38,000 right now that needs to be allocated somewhere.
Can't hear her.
So do you have the new sheet that I sent out at lunchtime, before lunch? The Part C funding? Okay.
Here, let me pull it up.
When I removed and rearranged the proposed expenditures for the categories under community conservation, right now we're sitting at a proposed reserve from this year of $38,279.
Okay.
So 17.
Call the question?
Vehicle fund liabilities.
We wouldn't be affecting anything for Park City this year. So Craig, are you all right with this?
Yep.
All right, we'll go forward. In the budget committee, we'll be discussing it right now. It looks like we're probably looking at 0 for next year. It's hard to say, but again, we also project we're going to have more income coming in as Jim and Nick, everybody else continues to do more online courses. Well, we can continue that way. All those in favor of the adjustment be $1,200 each for this year? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next issue, cell phone discussion.
So I talked actually to Stu about this because I have a county phone. Everybody else is using their phones. If, you know, this is one of those going back to, you know, there is some concern about the ability for it to be foiled. If someone's using a phone for work, it can be foiled. So I think the district should, especially if we're going to be working out of the office a lot more, if we're looking at one or two things. If somebody would like a county phone, you could offer that up. It's about $32 a month for the service. If they do not want to have the county phone, then it would be looking at a stipend. And I believe Sue, you said it's variable in the town of Bolton based on responsibilities.
Based on responsibility and amount of usage, it fluctuates from 25. I think it goes as high as 75.
Yeah, we don't use anywhere near that of that. I don't believe. I think just offering something would be helpful to cover that. I was thinking, you know, $15 or $20 a month for the, for the use of the cell phone. 15 basically being half of what it would cost the district for a county phone. So, but that, is probably worth a little bit of discussion if you would like it. So it's just something that Rhonda and I were talking about a couple weeks ago. And again, tying it in with the, we're out in the field, whether it's Nick, Dean, Marn, or Bob, we're calling them on the cell phone. They give, their cell phone number to people, and they're used all the time. So.
We should put something together, what you think the number and what you recommend. We can look at it.
Greg, do you have anyone who has a town phone or a county phone? And is there anything, if they use their own phone for work, is there compensation for that?
No, Jason and I are the only ones with town phones. And I have it because of the foilability of it.
Yep.
To be able to keep it separate. I do quite a lot of business. I do all my business on the town phone. So, but we do not reimburse anybody at the town.
Okay. So what's your thoughts? Would you be more in favor of a separate phone for that, or?
It's usually when you're, when you're the easier target, you're most likely to get foiled on anything. So the stipend would work better than having a whole separate phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, one of the main concerns is that, the only other thing is if there's specific software that a smartphone would have that would aid in your work.
I think, there's some software that we've all downloaded that's, free stuff, whether it's mapping software, Google Earth, or anything like that. I don't think there's any software specific items that we have on our phones just to do work. We could, we can use them with having the ArcGIS online account, and we do have the Bluetooth enabled receiver, and we have to test it. But I know the county has offered up a loan of a good receiver. These can be our new GPS units too.
So how many phones altogether?
Including the one that I have, which, so that's the county phone. So that would be a total of there'd be a total of 5 when you already have 1. So 4 new ones.
4. Yeah.
For their personal use, because it's their phone, and somebody wants to, or it needs to get foiled, like, I'm not getting it from, but I would have an issue with that. I mean, that's my personal stuff. I don't want somebody foiling my phone.
I think they have to have, it has to be a specific thing though. They can't just look through everything. It's actually very, very specific what they're requesting, but yeah, I mean, it's public information, so.
Right. Well,
Yeah, there's levels of protection there for your phones. It is not just you hand over a phone and say, here you go. It is for specific, any phone calls that you've had with Mark Brown since February of 2019 to July of 2020, and you go through and you would submit those phone records. And really that's all that it would be, that from what I've been told, is that these are the calls that have been made in this particular case.
okay.
So if you did phones using $30, which I think is a couple dollars low, but maybe it's right on. 4 additional phones, you're looking at $1,500 a year. That'll be in next year's budget. So mine's $34, so $1,600 for the year, basically.
We can discuss this with the budget for next year.
Yes.
So it's $172 a year.
$172 per
Or per month.
month.
Yeah. Okay. 72. Okay.
All right, budget committee, something we will have on over the list and discuss. Anything else we need on that?
I didn't hear any of that, sorry.
What is the budget committee will look into that, because again, we're discussing this for next year. So whenever our next budget committee meeting, we go over and decide, and look at the cost, but it'll be around 178 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're postponing decisions at this point?
Yeah, more or less wanted to bring it up because it hadn't been discussed before.
Yep.
So.
Thank you.
I would just like to add something, coming from the state, we had a lot of people who were, dealing with the public, and we had business cards for many of our employees, and a lot of them use their own personal cell phones on those business cards, which at times led to harassment from the public to their personal phone calls at all hours of day and night. So, it's getting them a state cell phone really made a difference, because then our state park police could get involved from the very, right at the outgo if there was any harassment, because it happened quite a bit to us. And I myself used to get phone calls at all hours on my own personal phone before we got these state phones. So it's really, it's helpful to have the state phone just as a kind of a buffer.
Okay.
We're looking at having an additional company or soil water phone is something we can discuss when we get into that. So you can even come up with an idea what one would cost, or
Yeah, I'll talk to Scott at the county IT.
We'll look at both issues.
He'll have it.
Okay, we go from cell phones to the Westbrook Conservation Initiative.
So did some work down there with the Village of Lake George. Again, everything's running fine there. This is one of the contracts we have for management of the facility for the county. I believe it's $3,000 per year. So it's interesting to see the impact that COVID has had on that. We're seeing the same problems that they have over in the park, Charlie Woods Park. People of displaced means, let's put it that way, are camping in certain areas of the park and Charlie Woods Park and relieving themselves by the ponds. So it's kind of a health and safety issue. The village knows about it. They've been dealing with that, but you know, as far as the water quality from stormwater, it's working out very well. Now, if we could just keep the people from utilizing it as a toilet, that'll work out even better. So, not really much to report on that. Maren and I and Alex Novick from the Land Conservancy did go collect purple loosestrife beetles from there the other week. So it's doing well. So, and again, just reporting because that's one of the contracts we have.
I did notice driving through Westbrook and looking at Charlie Wood Park, the number of people down there, a lot higher than normal, especially with the one beach being closed. We always call the dog beach. You have a lot more people using the area than that. Picnic, partying, getting together right there. I think that's something we'll be facing. Okay, some other issues that aren't on the list. But, oh, I didn't even turn it over to these guys. Look at that. Upper Hudson River water.
That's what I miss about being there.
Nick, anything else from Upper Hudson?
No, we're continuing forward. You guys kind of got the update. I'm the treasurer of Upper Hudson, so we just, you know, I'm getting used to the logistics of not being in the same location as the rest of the committee to sign checks. And so now we have to mail each other signature checks and, you know, deal with kind of those aspects of being distant. But other than that, Bob's been working on the DEC grant through the Upper Hudson Coalition. And it sounds like he's done quite a bit of work in Thurman, so that's it.
Okay, Champlain Watershed Improvement Coalition.
So, kind of along the same lines, Maren has been in charge of getting the projects up and running for our county, and they being Allison from the Regional Planning Board, just clarified that we had until, I believe it's somewhere around September of 2021 to complete projects. The town of Hague seems to be utilizing these funds for supplies and materials fairly readily. But there are projects scattered throughout the entire Champlain watershed on our portion. So, you know, if Town of Bolton has a question, reach out to Maren on that. We're looking at project sites that we have documented plus new project sites. But that's the same thing. It's going along pretty well. So.
Okay. Warren County Water Quality Strategy Committee meeting.
Just have that on there because it's something that we do 4 times a year. I don't know if any of you were on the Water Quality Strategy Committee meeting the other week. It was a good discussion. If you didn't see it, I think I have you on the water quality group. I unfortunately lost a member, Doug O'Brien from Loon Lake. Doug was a nice guy, intelligent, very mild-mannered and level-headed. And then I read his obituary, and I could not believe that was the same guy. I mean, the level of banking that he was in charge of, Bank of Ireland in New York and stuff, it was amazing. So you never know, but it's unfortunate. Doug, I like Doug a lot. He was a really good guy. So, but the committee is a good place for municipalities and associations to chat, not just about the agenda items, but other items. that deal with resource protection, resource concerns. So I think we had about 20 people at the last meeting, which was up from about 8 the previous meeting. So I think more people are getting accustomed to Zoom and doing it this. And I think the Zoom software is actually probably improved a little bit for people as well. So we are going to have, if you're interested, I asked Mike Martin from he works for Cedarwood Engineering now. He used to work up at Paul Smith's. I went down and toured the Lake George Escapes remediation projects that they've needed to do. It's the large campground that way on East Schroon River Road. Previous owners did a lot of stuff that they shouldn't within the park, and both the Corps and the park agency had requirements for them to remediate, and they're moving right along. It's pretty impressive. So Mike is going to do a presentation on actually successful remediation in the Adirondack Park. So.
Grant project updates.
Dean, you got your erosion control and the sandbox?
Yes, actually we've been moved forward. Only 2 bids came back for the augmented reality sandbox we're pursuing through Quickney. I just shut it down. So there was one that came in that was $7,000. It wasn't the right size to accommodate students around it. Excuse me, for those of you that may not know what we're talking about, our guest is still on. It's a real-time representation of topographic lines in sand, and it actually displays water and land contours. And as you move it, it reassigns that, and it helps you understand a little bit about watersheds and all the vocabulary that goes with it. Julia from county just sent me an email to Tim and I. That one was can't even think of the word, excused from the bid because it didn't meet the spec, and she's going to forward that bid and forward and approve the bid from Augmented Reality Sandbox. So she's in discussion right now with Tim about cutting a purchase order. So, or getting approval to do that. So that's moving along. That model that we've been talking about for the last couple months, which would be a great asset to the region and for water quality education, looks like it's coming to fruition, getting ever so much closer. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Okay, Maren.
All right, just a few things here. So our urban conservation grant at the Warrensburg Community Garden is coming along really nicely. I don't know if you guys all received it, but I attached it on the back side of my board report. But we have a webinar training coming up that Nick and I will be hosting this Thursday at 5 o'clock to just talk about the grant, hedgerow gardens, a little bit of soil health in there. So that'll be really interesting. And if anybody would like to join, just let me know, send me an email or a phone call. I can get you signed up. In addition to more trainings, I've been working very hard on trying to get our invasive species grant going with the Lake Champlain Basin program. We've had quite a few adjustments to make because those were really interactive, like hands-on workshops last year. And we anticipated having a lot more people this year for the grant. So Bob and I have been working with Monica from the Lake George Lake George Land Conservancy, excuse me, to just make that transition into doing some online webinars, but still being able to provide resources to the public for management and monitoring of invasive plants. So for that, I do need to get approval today to be spending. I had about $7,800 I put in the grant to spend on the scouting and restoration toolkits. So I don't know if we can cover that today, Jim or Mark.
Yeah, I'd like a motion for that.
Okay, we need a motion to spend up to $7,800 on a grant.
We're having trouble hearing you, Mark.
Oh,
All right, we need a motion to spend up to $7,800 on the grant.
And that you say is already in the budget?
yep.
Yes.
I'll move that.
Second?
Yep, second.
Any further discussion on this needed? All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Yeah, and I'll be sending around the flyers for the different training dates. But if you guys have any interest or know of any friends or community members might be interested in participating in that, you will be sent with some invasive monitoring and management tools. You'll learn some identification skills and just things that you can apply to your own backyard or help a friend with. So just be on the lookout for those coming out.
Okay. Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, so let's see, what do we have? So for my stormwater abatement, around 14 DEC grant, we had our Trinity Rock Road test pits. We got down to 7 feet in sand, which I have no idea how we got that over on Trinity Rock Road, but I'm extremely happy because we were able to get a larger stormwater separator unit in there. And Corinna, our engineer, working with Kathy Suazo, is working on finalizing those designs for us. So that project's moving along nicely. I had for my stormwater improvement round 12 grant, I had a Zoom meeting with the manufacturers of Stormcrete to see if a section of Lake George Village would be good for precast porous sidewalk. The meeting went really well. They were super excited. I pulled up Google Earth. It was like we were right there on site. He's like, "You just saved me 5 hours of traveling," and I'm like, "That's great to hear." So that went well. Looks like it's a great site. So we're going to be sending out some requests for quotes on those. I imagine really the only quote we'll get back is Stormcrete. And then our Flat Rock Road project in that grant has been fully planned. Everything's been sent out for quotes, and the town of Lake George will be picking up the stormwater catch basins and some other supplies to get that hopefully installed in mid-August. Those are really my grant project updates at the moment.
Okay. Okay. Any other grants, or are we all? No, it's good for now. All right. The Community Conservation Program funding discussion, out beyond the request, which everybody should have got a chance to look at the request.
So Dean, any comment on that? You're
All right.
muted.
You're muted, Dina.
Muted.
The unit has been installed. If you go to their Up Yonder's Instagram page, they have a couple of videos and a photo of the unit in place. And according to Karen, they seem to be, the bees are doing well in the hive.
Yeah, sorry, I do have the oldest computer. It took me a while to get my cursor up there and actually hit the button. Yeah, this is a 4-foot observational hive. It may have 1 or 2 entrances. It goes in and out of the wall in the exterior of the building. We used to have one in the big bear tree on the other side of the museum, but it's a good curriculum. It's a well-received curriculum by students. I'm sorry, I'm going off on the days of Up Yonder, but this hive, I just shot over to Nick. It's good. It works great. It works better than the one that we used to have back in the day. And honestly, it does tie in with Maren and Nick's aim, the aim in the area, as we have to deal with pollinators and the impacts of pollinators in the region. And it's a strong curriculum at the farm. So yes, Lydia had sent over that application that you all received. The hive is in, and by the volumes of bees that are in it that I can see from this image, it's working tremendously well.
And the request is $1,000, which is our max amount. We've spent $1,000 so far this year out of that, and after the adjustments, we have $4,000 total available. So
again, you had a chance to look at it. Hopefully everybody got to read it over. We'll get a motion first, and then we go. Anybody have a motion to accept it for $1,000 they're requesting?
I'll move it.
Okay, Tim,
Second.
All right, any other further discussion on it? Seems like a great project. Anything else need to add to this?
I just have one question. Now we've approved one of these grants for Up Yonder before, right?
Yeah.
And what was that for? I can't remember.
That would have been the last one was the composter, I believe.
Composter, that's right.
Yeah.
I think they're well spent when they go there. So.
Yeah, well, not that, and I understand we've had the discussion, it was a new program when we started this, and we didn't want to heavy hand push too much resource to any one particular, but although we are going through COVID, they still do get public at Up Yonder, and when schools and field trips figure themselves back out, this is a tremendous resource in the area that ties into the core of our mission here, so.
Yeah, and personally,
it's such a large population, being there, any of these grants we do.
Yeah, and personally, I view, that's a little different because, we're assisting the county who assists us. So, and, it'd be the same as the town. We've debated before about having a separate line item for municipal type assistance like this, but we just leave it in that.
Actually, this is not Up Yonder applying. This is the Friends of Up Yonder.
Right, but the beneficiary is Up Yonder.
Right.
So, so no, we agree.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Board of Directors reporting info. Anything we have, anybody has to. Everybody can quietly working home, except for Craig. Craig has been busy all the time.
Mr. Chairman, can I bring something up at this point, an idea?
Yes, definitely.
That our zoning boards and planning boards are required to get 4 hours of credit each year. And it's been a little difficult with a lot of workshops being canceled. I was thinking of how to be able to get our zoning board and planning boards educated on certain issues, and was wondering if Soil Water Conservation District could do a Zoom meeting about stormwater management, that as site plans come in, are there things that these boards should be looking at and considering stormwater management? Is that something that we could contract to the Water Conservation District to do for us? And we could open it up to all the boards in the county, and that there would be a fee charged for it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say yes even before you said the fee, Craig. So I guess the one thing, and maybe you and the other folks who've been on the planning and zoning before, who assigns the credits for those? Who makes the determination of whether it's eligible for credit?
The town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we've done things similar to this. Even our 4-hour erosion sediment control training, that is the DEC training, that's eligible for DOS credits under, and it used to be a specific item for DOS. Now, I can't remember what they call it. It's like a la carte type of thing where you have all the other, it doesn't fall into this, it can fall into this other section. But now, is it hour per hour, or is that how hour per credit? Is that how that works?
Usually so.
Okay,
usually
so you're looking at a 4-hour training.
Nope, we'd be looking at about a 1 hour to an hour and a half training. Just thinking of being able to have people join in.
Yes.
We'd have to keep it to about that much.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe some literature that they could read later on that could afford them an additional half hour.
Exactly.
We've done that.
And what we're doing now on the 4-hour is we're actually, we've converted the presentation to a PDF and sending it to everybody who's attended the 4-hour sediment control training that Nick and I do. So they're getting that along with the Blue Book. So we're doing a similar process already. So I would say yes. It just depends on when you're interested, how you want to go through it. If it's something, you know, Chris Belden's always looking for that kind of stuff at the planning office. You know, if you want to go through it that way, or however, honestly, I mean, as a board, you could certainly charge for it, but I think we probably have more than enough presentations and information to put together something relatively easy. And to do that, I think it just makes our lives easier when we're going out on jobs and such like that, when there's a problem, if the education is there. So,
Okay.
yeah, however you want to do it would be, I think it's a
Okay.
good idea, Craig.
I'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
Thank you, Craig. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Thanks, Susan.
So I guess it's a little bit like, you know, when we did the forestry program the other year. You know?
That's right. Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, anybody else got anything else? Any other things you want to leave the public?
Yeah, so one item, this came up and I did it after, we got it after the agenda, so I apologize. Martin and I have been working on, you know, some thoughts and ideas for marketing, for lack of a better term. And Mr. Greenslade, we like, you know, the signs that are out there from Sidekick. So Martin talked to this individual called Kara Greenslade, and we got a quote for some signage, and then Sarah Frankenfeld got involved from planning, and basically Sarah, the planning department will allow us to utilize one of the existing signs but change the narrative on it. And we're thinking if that would be possible, we'd like to do that. I think they were pointing to Craig, the town of Chester's sign that has the trees on it. They were looking towards that one, and I don't have it with me, but basically making it for, Martin and I have been kicking around the idea of a Warren County tree challenge. And it could be both the big tree challenge from the state and using our app too. But then taking it beyond that, we've also talked about looking at the Lake Champlain Basin program, trying to get a grant from them this year when it comes out to provide funding so that we can do some of the signage and improve graphics for the AEM program, the ag program. And what I like about this is if we're using the same type of the sign design, it ties it all together to our county. So you're really branding that, and that's what the county liked, the planning department liked. And we also have a pretty good in now with the tourism department. So we would think they would be able to get in with tourism and have them help promote all of this. So the quote that we received, a custom illustrated sign design was $1,100. But the one that we're looking at is edits to the existing sign design was $350. So then we come back, we get our, you know, one item there, and I think it's, I think it would be a good thing to do, to try it and see how it works. Sarah Frankenfeld from planning has been dealing with us a lot, so you know I'm pretty interested in it. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. This just came in the other day, so.
What would be on the sign?
We can send you a mock-up. We have, is basically promotion of two programs that we're looking at. You know, you have your Chester Challenge. Okay, we'd be looking at the Warren County Tree Challenge. And so we could tie it into somebody's walking up on the trails, up Chester, example. They can utilize, if they've downloaded our app that we created for the trees. And, and so they can look for unique trees or interesting looking things or unique species, but then also promoting, because we've measured up several trees. They're not going to be big trees in New York, but you know, I mentioned this last meeting, there's a 189-inch circumference honey locust in Glens Falls. The thing's massive. There's a
honey locust.
Yeah, honey locust. There's a large Douglas fir in Pineview Cemetery. There's a huge diameter or circumference Western white fir there as well. So we're just thinking that, you know, we're coming into fall. There's a lot of people hiking up here anyway, and this is going to get people more and more interested in tying that all together with the county programs and everything. So.
And also, you know, to add on to what Jim said, it's like really like this tree app and even doing, you know, a big tree challenge type thing. It's a way to just encourage like our community to recreate a little bit differently, where, you know, a lot of like the trails, like you might have visited regularly, where there weren't tons of people, there's a lot more foot traffic. So it's just a different way to get people kind of changing the way they think about hiking, where, you know, you're going like fast pace, and they can learn about something a little bit different for them. And then it's also, you know, we wanted to use these posters as a tool just to encourage like, you know, the community and outside community to be visiting our local, you know, municipal lands and those types of properties versus like just thinking about those state properties and popular areas. So just a different approach to recreation.
Yeah.
And also provides an opportunity for families to have a challenge when they go out on a hike or whatever, you know, to identify some of these things.
Yeah, I know, taking grandkids out, they get sick of me because I'm pointing out trees or looking for tracks or picking up frogs or something. And where I always say, when you go for a hike, there's a lot more to see than just how fast you get to the top or wherever you're going.
Absolutely. It's not the destination, it's the trip.
Right. I think it's got a lot of potential. I like this. And we have a motion to accept this. I know it came in the last minute, but I think we should go forward with something like this. It's got a great opportunity for us.
As I said, it's $350.
We need a motion.
So
I'll move it.
Greg, second.
Tim?
Tim? All right. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, go forward. Here's your chance.
Yay. Thank you.
And like I said, we'll see how it works out. I'm anticipating good things, and then, you know, try to look at tying our AEM program into that. So that type of.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, just a couple things I'd like to point out that, you know, this week, very happy with everything that's going on. Very proud of all the staff. You know, we just jotted down this week, you know, of the big things. You know, we're working with Randy Rath and the DOT at Exit 22 to continue doing some more infiltration work and disconnection of the stormwater runoff. DOT's on it really now because if you didn't see, there was just a signing state for a salt reduction across New York State. So Mark Saunders out of here likes his fish. So he's going as fast as he can and getting some of these things lined up. So we're at Exit 22. Bob is going to be out sampling for water quality in the Glens Falls reservoirs this week. You know, Martin and Nick have the webinar and they're working on, you know, the NACD grant. Dean's hydroseeding just probably about 5 or 6 different towns this week. We have our site visits, and that's, you know, as we were here today, we were kind of telling Mr. Brown how crazy it was this morning with phone calls and getting questions on flood maps and everything else. So it has not slowed down for us in the least, at least lately. There's a lot of people up here. There's a lot of new folks up here, and you know, we're busy. So just wanted to point that out, that there's a lot of big projects going out that you may not know about, but that's what we're doing. So yeah. I don't have anything else for my report.
Anybody else have anything they want to add before we end the meeting? Thank everybody for joining in. And I know we seem to have accomplished a lot, even at tough times. Make sure you send all your forms in to Rhonda, and we will go from there. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Right.
Oh,